intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. Your readers today are
J.J. Patek
and Linda Ranella. Starting with the weather report. Cloudy today with a couple of snow showers. Any heavier burst of snow could make roads slippery, a high of 25. A couple of flurries tonight, a low of 10. A little snow with little or no accumulation tomorrow, a high of 18 and a low of 11. For Friday, a thick cloud cover, high of 25, low of 16. For Saturday, cold, high of 23, a low of 11. For Sunday, times of sun and clouds, high of 25, low of 16. For Monday, cloudy, high of 31, a low of 21. And for Tuesday, a bit of morning snow, a high of 30, and a low of 16. Sunrise today was at 7:46 a.m. and sunset tonight is at 4:51 p.m. JJ?
For starts, huge moments for Allen, both on and off the field. And this is from Mike Harrington. Perhaps the only thing Josh Allen didn't do in 2025 was win the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe that's what 2026 has in store for the Buffalo Bills franchise quarterback. Allen was front and center for numerous personal and professional milestones this year. It's no stretch to say that any future year for a Buffalo athlete needs to be compared with Allen's 25 campaign. Allen, of course, started the year by concluding the Bills' 2024 season with the heartbreak of the 32-29 loss January 26 at Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. The second time in his career he was stopped by Chiefs counterpart Patrick Mahomes, one game shy of the Super Bowl. It wasn't Allen's fault. He was 22 of 34 for 234 yards and 2 touchdowns and capped the season that saw him become Buffalo's first NFL and most valuable player since Thurman Thomas in 1991. And the hits just kept rolling. Allen signed his 6-year, $330 million contract extension March 9th that featured an NFL record $250 million in guaranteed money. And there's more. Allen married actress at the luxurious San Isidro Ranch at Montecito, California, and the couple announced on December 12th that they're expecting their first child. And as we look back at the best in Western New York sports in 2025, you wonder what Allen has in store for 2026. First, MVP, 41 total touchdowns, 28 passing, 12 rushing, 1 receiving, and a career-low 6 interceptions. He threw for 3,701 yards, rushed for 531, completed 63.6% of his passes, and had a 101.4 rating. As the Bills went 13-4, his numbers this season are similarly spectacular, with the completion percentage at a career best 693.3, 3,668 yards, and 25 touchdowns and a 102.2 rating. But an MVP repeat may not be in the cards, given the candidacies of quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford of the Rams and Drake May of the New England. Stay tuned. And number 2, the new Highmark. Old Highmark. The NFL's newest palace has risen across Abbott Road, and Highmark Stadium is set to replace, Highmark Stadium when next season beckons. The $2.2 billion facility has gone through all sorts of milestones in its construction, from its topping out ceremony to the installations of scoreboards, audio systems, turf, and goalposts. Another huge milestone came last week when the club announced it has sold its entire inventory of 54,000 personal seat licenses for the new stadium. And the old stadium, born in 1973, will last at least one game into the 2026, and Sunday's regular season finale against the New York Jets is likely to be the Bills' last home game in the stadium, unless playoff upsets give Bills fans one more chance. 3, the Sabres' big move at GM. That's The Buffalo Sabres endured a frustrating 14th straight season out of the playoffs in the spring, and things were going poorly this year with the club in last place in the Eastern Conference and 0-3 on a long road trip. That was enough for only Terry Pegula to set the wheels in motion when the team got home. General manager Kevin Adams was fired on December 15th and replaced by senior advisor Jarmo Kalainen. The Sabres won their first 6 games under the new general manager to suddenly extend their winning streak to 9 games, their longest run since 2018, and give fans hope that a playoff push would finally be in the offing in 2026. And then 4 of the Bandits pull off a three-peat. Buffalo's biggest winners did it again on May 24th, defeating the Saskatchewan Rush at 15-6 with a decisive third game of the National Lacrosse League Finals before a roaring KeyBank Center sellout crowd of 19,070. Buffalo's third straight title matched the Rochester Nighthawks 2012-14 as the only NLL team to three-peat and gave the Bandits a record in the league at 7 championships. 5 Buffalo Blue Jays fall 1 run short. With a roster full of ex-Buffalo Bisons, the Toronto Blue Jays became one of the best stories in baseball as they won the American League East for the first time since 2015 and went all the way to the World Series for the first time since 1993 before a dramatic Game 7 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The 11-inning classic on November 1st rates as one of the greatest games in series history. Former Bison Ernie Clement nearly won the game with a long drive to the left in the bottom of the 9th, but it was hauled in by Dodgers center fielder Andy Pages. Clement, a Rochester native who was an avowed Bills and Sabres fan, set an all-time record with 30 hits in the postseason. And the ex-Bison's roster included stars like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, and recent Bison standouts like Clement, Nathan Lukes, and Addison Berger. And then 6, Sirianni wins it all. 36 men have served as head coaches for a Super Bowl champion. Only one lists his roots in Western New York. Philadelphia Eagles coach Nick Sirianni was back in his homestead Sunday to meet the Bills and eyeing a repeat in the playoffs. His big moment came on February 9th in New Orleans with a 40-22 rout of the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, preventing what would have been a historic three-peat by Patrick Mahomes and company. And it also allows Sirianni to avenge the 38-35 heartbreaker against Andy Reid and the Chiefs 2 years previously in Glendale, Arizona. The Jamestown native, rooted in the family tree of Southwestern Central, is now 52-25 overall after the Eagles held on for a 13-12 win over the Bills in Sirianni's return to Western New York. He's in his 6-3 in the postseason. And the UB women win at WNIT, lose Becky Burke. This is number 7. The University of Buffalo women's basketball team made the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament in 2018, but the crowning moment on its home court came on April 5th with an 88-84 victory over Troy, securing the championship of the WNIT and delighting an alumni arena crowd of 5,650. The Bulls finished the season 30-7, winning 30 games in a season for the first time. They were 18-2 at home with WNIT wins over UMass, Rutgers, and Cleveland State, getting them into the nationally televised championship game. Shelley O. Watson scored 23 points to lead UB into the final, as the Bulls scored 54 second-half points to wipe out a 44-34 deficit at the break. 4 days later, Coach Becky Burke departed for the job at the University of Arizona after posting a 61-37 record in 3 seasons, and on April 18th, she was replaced by Syracuse associate head coach Kristen Sharkey, a former UB player and assistant coach. 8, Sean Dolak to the NFL, and it's still bizarre to ponder how UB linebacker Sean Dolak didn't even get invited to the NFL Combine after a strong senior season that included UB's 26-7 Bahamas Bowl victory January 4th over Liberty. Sort of like how the Bills passed on drafting Kalec Mack back in the day. There are questions about speed and size with Dolak, a West Seneca native, as well as playing against mid-American competition. But it was the only AP All-America selection not to get invited to Indianapolis, and he didn't get drafted. So what happened? Dolock signed as an undrafted free agent with the Los Angeles Rams and did what most everybody in 716 expected. He wowed the team in the spring, continued the work in training camp, and made the 53-man roster as a rookie, and even had a 7-tackle game with 6 solos in October win at Baltimore for a club that has Super Bowl aspirations. He's been a special team stalwart with 24 tackles so far. Number 9, hoop dreams at Damon. Damon University has become a power in the Division II basketball, and the small school in Amherst hit the big time in 2025, going undefeated through the regular season and reaching the number 1 national ranking for the first time in program history before a 79-74 home loss to St. Thomas Aquinas, ending the season at 28-1. Veteran coach Mike McDonald's team won the East Coast Conference for the first time and set a school mark for victories. McDonald's, a former Canisius and Medaille bench boss, received the Clarence Big House Gaines Award as National Coach of the Year, and he kept it up this season, earning his 500th career win on December 12th at Mercy, a 14-0 start and a number 2 ranking in the national poll, and at finally number 10, Joe Mack is a AAA champion. It was a huge season for the Williamsville East standout as a 23-year-old became the top catching prospect in the Miami Marlins chain. Mack got his first promotion to AAA Jacksonville from AA Pensacola and batted at .250 with 18 homers, 53 runs batted in 99 games. He continued to play stellar defense and got an invitation to play in the All-Star Futures game on July 12th in Atlanta. The Jumbo Shrimp won the International League's first half crown and beat Scranton Wilkes-Barre to win the IL title. The Coup de Grace came September 28th in Las Vegas when Jacksonville won the AAA National Championship game with a dramatic 8-7 victory over the Las Vegas Aviators on a walk-off home run after blowing a 6-2 lead in the ninth. And on November 18th came another big moment. Mack was added to the Marlins' 40-man Major League roster and might start next season back in Jacksonville. But every indication is that his MLB debut will happen at some point in 2026.
Thank you, JJ. High winds, snow make travel tough across area. Lake effect bans likely for tonight's festivities. A period of intense lake effect snow in the Buffalo metro area was accompanied by persistent high winds, joining forces to unleash the first major winter storm of the season in Buffalo, Niagara. Winds roared, but precipitation whimpered, judging by the National Weather Service Buffalo data shared Tuesday. Areas expected to receive up to 6 inches of snow generally saw 2 to 3 inches at most. On New Year's Eve, however, widespread snowfall and a continuation of localized lake effect snow bands could create difficult driving conditions for northern and central Erie County, especially later in the day as revelers don their party hats and warm up their noisemakers. NWS Buffalo's winter weather advisory projects 2 to 4 inches in northern Erie County, excuse me, and more to the south on Wednesday, with temperatures feeling like the single digits. Hazardous conditions will impact the Wednesday evening commutes, read a winter weathery advisory by the National Weather Service for northern Erie County, effective from 7 a.m. Wednesday through 1 a.m. Thursday. The passage of a cold front will disrupt lake effect snow in the evening before the calendar flips to 2026, which suggests a reasonable commute home from the downtown ball drop. More broadly, NWS Buffalo anticipates 1 to 2 feet of snow Wednesday off of Lake Erie, with 1 to 2 inches falling per hour in the thick of the heaviest bands. The bands in the storm so far have been narrow and mobile, making it difficult for meteorologists to predict which areas of western New York will receive the greatest snowfall amounts and resulting in more broad projections. Light accumulations, heavy winds. Through Tuesday, powerful wind gusts, periods of blowing snow that reduce visibility, and as many as 40,000 power outages headlined the 2 days of the storm. Snow accumulations have been a footnote. The 7 inches recorded Tuesday in Glenwood, home to Kissing Bridge Ski Resort, were an outlier among the Erie County towns, and a second volunteer observer recorded snowfall of 3 inches a half-mile away. The difference likely underscores the challenge of accurately recording the depth of blowing snow, as well as the nature of narrow, oscillating bands. Holland ranked second in the county at a modest 3.8 inches. East Amherst, Elma, and Colden were the only other Erie County locations to record more than 2.5 inches. Hamburg, East Aurora, West Seneca, and Orchard Park, the usual dumping grounds for lake effect snow, did not receive more than 2 inches. The city of Buffalo did not receive more than an inch of snow. Areas outside of Erie County received higher snow totals. Franklin and Cattaraugus County received 9 inches, while Arcade got 7 inches. Batavia saw 5.5, and Jamestown tallied 5. The snow totals in Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Wyoming counties will likely be much higher by early New Year's Day, as they were in the crosshairs of the snow bands Tuesday and projected for much more Wednesday. Tuesday's breather. Reduced wind gusts and less snow than expected gave organizations in Erie and Niagara counties a chance to catch their breath. That was the case for the Buffalo Niagara International Airport after near record-setting wind gusts prompted a cancellation of more than a dozen flights during Monday's windstorm. There's some delays, but not nearly as many cancellations as yesterday. Kelly Catlib, Public Information Officer for the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority, said about activity at the Cheektowaga Airport. JetBlue appeared to have the most issues, with 4 of its Tuesday flights out of Buffalo canceled and 2 more delayed by several hours. A Delta Airlines flight to Michigan, a United flight to Chicago, and an American Airlines flight to Dallas-Fort Worth were each delayed 4 hours, according to the airport's flight information on Tuesday around midday. Tuesday morning's winds, while still gusting close to 40 miles per hour, paled in comparison with Monday. According to unofficial reports shared by the National Weather Service Buffalo, wind gusts at 11 a.m. Monday reached 79 miles per hour, or 3 miles per hour shy of tying the all-time record of 82 miles per hour set in 1967. Strong gusts frequently exceeded 60 miles per hour, which Katib said proved an ongoing challenge for operations crews. Our airport ops crews have been clearing the runway, Katib said, but the wind had been blowing constantly, and any loose snow it pushes it back onto the airfield. The airport has the right equipment to quickly remove snow, Katib added, but so even significant accumulation is not usually a problem. The airport upgraded its snow clearing fleet in 2022, adding 5 multitask vehicles that plow, brush, and air blast snow. At $870,000 apiece, the vehicles can accomplish the work of 2 or 3 older snow removal vehicles. They're Mercedes compared to Chevys. Joe Garino, the airfield superintendent, told the Buffalo News when the vehicles debuted. But for Monday's storm, the wind's effect on flight conditions was perhaps a greater trouble spot. When you have high winds and blowing snow like yesterday, that can make takeoff and landings very difficult, even if the runway is completely clear, the spokesperson said. Okay. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 9:18.
Okay. The Dems will highlight GOP efforts to rewrite the Capitol riot. This is from Michael Gold. When they return to Washington next week, House Democrats plan to mark the 5th anniversary of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol with an informal hearing that will highlight Republicans' efforts to rewrite the history of a riot by a pro-Trump mob. Because Democrats are in the minority, they cannot call an official congressional hearing, but throughout President Trump's second term, Democratic lawmakers have held informal events meant to draw public attention to their criticisms of the administration. In a letter sent Monday to the Democratic caucus, Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York, the minority leader said the hearing set for Tuesday would highlight Trump's broad clemency to rioters seeking to reverse his loss in the 2020 election, some of whom have been rearrested on other charges. He also said the lawmakers would explore ongoing threats to free and fair elections posed by an out-of-control Trump administration, but with Democrats preparing for midterm elections in which they seek to win control of the House. Jeffries made clear that the hearing was meant to counter Republicans' efforts to sanitize a storming of the Capitol. In the years since that disgraceful day, far-right Republicans in Congress have repeatedly attempted to rewrite history and whitewash the events of January 6, Jeffries wrote. The mob of Trump loyalists that attacked the Capitol that day caused millions of dollars in damage, injured more than 140 officers, and, for the first time in U.S. history, interrupted the certification of a presidential election. Next Tuesday's hearing will be led by Representative Benny Thompson, a Democrat from Mississippi who led the bipartisan House Select Committee that investigated the attack, held widely viewed hearings in 2022, and issued a report on Trump's efforts to overturn his election loss. But the coming hearing, held by a party with little power to conduct oversight and compel action, will likely demonstrate just how much the dynamics around January 6 have shifted in the years since Trump returned to power. Though he once disavowed the rioters, Trump, during his 2024 presidential campaign, increasingly called them patriots and suggested they had been unfairly treated by the Justice Department. The president opened his second term by granting clemency to nearly all the 1,600 people charged in connection with the attack, including those who had assaulted police officers as they tried to disrupt the peaceful transfer of presidential power. Earlier this year, House Speaker Mike Johnson announced a new Republican-led subcommittee that would again investigate the attack and counter false narratives about it, part of a larger Republican project to recast the riot. That panel, led by Representative Barry Loudermilk of Georgia, has yet to hold a hearing. But Loudermilk has said one of the targets would be the once-stalled investigation into planting of pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic headquarters in Washington the night before the attack. This month, officials arrested a Virginia man in connection with the pipe bombs, which had been at the center of right-wing conspiracies. According to the court documents released Sunday, the man, Brian J. Cole Jr., told federal agents that he felt the need to speak up after he began to believe that the 2020 election had been tampered with.
Today in history, on this date in 1879, Thomas Edison first demonstrated his electric incandescent lights for the public by illuminating some 100 bulbs in and around his laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. In 1904, New York Times Square saw its first New Year's Eve celebration with an estimated 200,000 people in attendance. In 1972, baseball player Roberto Clemente, 38, was killed when a plane he chartered and was traveling on crashed shortly after takeoff from Puerto Rico while carrying relief supplies for earthquake-devastated Nicaragua. In 1985, singer Ricky Nelson, 45, and 6 others were killed when fire broke out aboard a plane that was taking the group to a New Year's Eve performance in Dallas, causing it to crash. In 1995, the syndicated comic strip Calvin and Hobbes, created by Bill Waterston, came to an end after a 10-year run. In 1999, Russian President Boris Yeltsin resigned, making Prime Minister Vladimir Putin acting president. In 2019, the Health Commission in Wuhan, China, announced that experts were investigating an outbreak of respiratory illness and that most of the victims had visited a seafood market in the city. The statement said 27 people had become ill with a strain of viral pneumonia, which would eventually be known as COVID-19.
From the opinion page, the Trump effect. In the last year, federal policies appear to have caused Western New York nothing but harm. Pervasive, arbitrary, and generally detrimental. Over the past year, the impact of Donald Trump's presidency has been felt throughout Western New York. It has not been a positive one, as reporting from the news throughout 2025 has consistently demonstrated. There was an attack on asylum seekers. Trump's cruelest policies have been publicly visible, with immigration and customs enforcement officers taking Western New York residents suspected of being illegal immigrants into custody during numerous raids and arrests at homes and workplaces without explanation and without any guarantee of due process. Asylum seekers attended their routine immigration court appointments with the knowledge that the ICE officers could be waiting to arrest them even after a judge had told them they were free to go. After hearing for an arrested Venezuelan man, U.S. District Judge Lawrence Villardo said what has been on many of our minds. Being taken away like this without any notice to anyone as to why, as a student of history, scares the hell out of me. There are due process rights in this country, and if we start letting those rights be ignored for folks who we think are non-citizens and subject to deportation, we put all of us at risk, and that is scary stuff. Key research undermined. A different kind of impact was felt as a now shuttered Federal Department of Government Efficiency, led for a brief period by Elon Musk, pulled grant funding and fired hundreds of government workers, employing no other explanation than it was attacking waste and inefficiency. It never defined that. As a result, essential research has been put at risk, especially science that tracks climate change. Funding was slashed for a Great Lakes weather observation project intended to help emergency responders make quicker decisions to protect life and property in the path of extreme events. Hundreds of National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration employees have been fired in an obvious attempt to suppress weather science. What's more likely to happen? Severe weather will cause greater harm. And DOGE didn't just go after the pursuit of science. An effective University of Buffalo teacher residency program was axed because it emphasized the importance of diversity in the classroom. Western New York delegation member Representative Nick Langworthy thinks this is what people want. Trump's overwhelming win in November proves that the American people support the mission of DOGE. Not really. Public support for DOGE was at best mixed, with multiple polls indicating that 60% of Americans disapproved of DOGE. And healthcare and nutrition. The worst is yet to come, with Medicaid cuts contained in the big, beautiful bill passed by Congress and signed by Trump in July. Same with the legislation's cuts to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. But what's happened already is bad enough, with insurance premiums for those who buy coverage through the Affordable Care Act marketplace set to rise by as much as 75% when the new year begins, and 200,000 New Yorkers expected to fully lose their insurance. SNAP funding will be reduced by $186 billion, with as many as 1.7 million New York families losing benefits. And finally, a damaged relationship with Canada. The effect of the Trump administration's punishing terrorists and unfriendly rhetoric toward our northern neighbors became obvious immediately. Many Canadians just stopped coming here. Border crossings by Canadians into the region started to drop in February, and they're still down by around 19%. Other than the tariffs, which have not caused any discernible economic benefit, a big reason for this is Trump's mindless comment that Canada is the 51st state. Local tourist attractions and retail outlets have suffered accordingly. Space does not allow for a complete listing of how Trump administration policies are causing damage throughout New York. If the state's Republican members of Congress wake up to this, maybe next year's list will be shorter.
Thank you, JJ. The editorial cartoons, the first one is by Steve Breen of Creator Syndicate. And both of the editorial cartoons today refer to Father Time exiting 2025. But this one shows 2025 in tattered clothes and a long white beard, and he's got the scythe in his hand, and he's got the timer, the egg timer in one hand. It's running down the clock, and he's labeled 2025, and he's being chased by 3 people in ICE uniforms. And one of the ICE persons says, "A weapon." The other ICE person says, "A beard." The third one says, "Must be a foreigner," as he reaches out to grab Father Time. The second cartoon is by Steve Kelly of Creator Syndicate. And it also shows Father Time with a timepiece in hand and a scythe in the other hand. And he's labeled 2025, and he's walking away. And in comes 2026 baby, wearing a top hat like the banker in a Monopoly game. And Father Time says, "You might want to steer clear of Minnesota," because behind him is a newspaper box, and the headline reads, $9 billion daycare fraud.
Thank you. From everybody's column, dehumanizing language leads to violence. I'm Somali. I too sing America. I cannot remain silent while the cabinet applauds the president saying Somali people are garbage. Dehumanizing, objectifying, and othering an entire group of people becomes a justification for acts of violence. It provides permission structure for arbitrary acts of injustice. This language and treatment of Somali American citizens is a part of an effort to transform our democracy from a system that guarantees minority rights to one that simply affirms a privileged status of the majority. Are not most of us descendants of immigrants? This is a dark path our president and his advisors are leading us down. We must speak truth to power. And this is from Marilyn Fierstein of East Amherst.
Thank you. White House ballroom absurd for many reasons. Analogies surrounding President Trump's demolishing of the East Wing for a decadent, gilded, and expensive ballroom are being expressed. One comparison is how the palatial ballroom is funded by and will be used by multimillionaires. Remember, the White House is the people's house. There are about 341.1 million Americans, and 2.7 million have a net worth of over $5 million from the U.S. Census. Therefore, 338.4 million Americans will not profit from or identify with this construction. Another point about this ballroom is its stark contrast to food insecurities for many Americans. The nutritional needs of our neighbors are far more important than a gilded ballroom that millionaires and billionaires will dine in. And this is written by Marguerite Battaglia of Buffalo.
Thank you.
I want to know where they plan on parking the cars.
Who knows? And Kelly should not face a court-martial. Since his appointment as Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth's tenure has been marked by one boneheaded move after another. Recently, his recent threat to have Mark Kelly recalled to active duty to face court-martial charges is an idea worthy of Curly, Larry, and Moe. Our servicemen and women do not give up their constitutional rights when they put on the uniform. On the contrary, the Uniform Code of Military Justice was carefully designed to ensure that service members are given the full benefits that our Constitution affords to them. Although it's unlikely that any charges against Kelly would ever get to full trial, Hegseth is sadly mistaken if he thinks a military jury will result in an automatic conviction. I tried many cases in front of military juries. They were attentive, listened to testimony, and followed the instruction of the military judge. I found them to be every bit as fair and impartial as a civilian jury. Our military has many pressing needs, and the last thing we need is Hegseth to waste taxpayer money just because he and his boss don't like what they hear. This is America, Pete. Get used to it. And this is from Paul Rudnicki, CPT JAGC, 1968 to 1972.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 9:32. Some opinion columns. This one is Another Voice, and it's about agriculture, and it's written by David Fisher, who is president of the New York Farm Bureau. Federal cuts to Cornell will hurt farmers. I'm a farmer. I know what our challenges are: unpredictable weather, labor issues, tariffs, and more. Here in New York, however, we have more than $2.5 billion in new private sector investment to provide great jobs at companies like Fairlife and Chobani, access to New York City, and more than 100 million consumers on the eastern seaboard, and a climate agreeable to agriculture. The thread that holds it all together is Cornell's College of Agriculture and Life Science, CALS, Cornell's College of Agriculture and Life Science, and its nearly 160-year partnership with New York's agricultural community. This land-grant, public-private institution of higher education is the unsung hero of science-backed farming as we know it. Its funding is key to maintaining the sustainability of our food system. If federal cuts and freezes to Cornell CAL's funding continue, it will have a devastating impact on research and development, which in turn will hurt the farmers who rely on that research to deal with the pest and disease management, soil health, climate change mitigation, and more. Because of the partnership among the New York State, CALS, and federal programs, per cow output has increased 250% over the last 50 years, while emissions are 60% lower. All sectors of agricultural production have learned to use fewer and safer pesticides and to employ natural crop protections. But as a nation, we are falling behind in agricultural research and development and the future scientists who will help protect our food security. A 2019 federal report revealed that China, the EU, and Argentina are outpacing and outspending the U.S. in agricultural innovation and technology. Cornell has helped countless farmers deal with every type of challenge, from soil health and invasive species to making sure cows have the best nutrition and produce the safest milk. But with the severity of federal funding cuts, the future of Cornell cows is under threat. The land grant partnership with Cornell Cows helps ensure that future farmers can succeed with the best science we can grow. I implore our state leaders to step up where federal leaders have not, and make a significant investment in the crucial research programs at Cornell. Otherwise, this historic partnership will wither on the vine, and the food security we have come to take for granted will wither along with it.
Thank you. I'm going to read from my view. Joni Williams of Williamsville plans a great party for her classmates. The 2025 winds to a close. There are many people of a certain age who give thanks that we are still here to experience another trip around the sun. Last year at this time, I began thinking about the fact that I would miraculously be turning 80 in 2025. Since most of my professional career has been spent as an event planner, why not plan one last occasion for some of the most important people of my life? I ran an idea past a few of my friends from the class of '63, and lo and behold, the plans to hold an 80th birthday party for my classmates began to sprout wings. As I mulled over some ideas for birthday gathering, I thought it was important to keep it as simple as possible, easily accessible and held during the day because some of us are not driving at night any longer. Every good party needs an event title, and what is the most important part of a birthday celebration? The cake, of course. Voila! The name of the party would be Let There Be Cake. The next considerations included when and where the party would be held. July looked like a good option. It was also halfway through the 80th birthday year, so some would be 80 already while others were still anticipating the milestone. Now, let's see. What would make an appropriate venue? A park setting? No, it could rain. Hosting it at a restaurant would be too formal. And what should have been my first thought ended up as the best solution. I live in a condo community with a lovely clubhouse. It was ideal with enough seating to accommodate the maximum number of guests. The date was selected, and a save-the-date notice went out in January. As a person who has hosted many personal and professional events over the years, I know all too well there is no such thing as simple. It may appear to others that everything runs smoothly, but that's not always the case. It's all in the details. For several months, there were things to think about like decorations, table linens, centerpieces, and so much more. As it got closer to the date, I began to reconsider just serving the cake and coffee. Now I was worried about people who could not eat cake. Should I have fruits and vegetables? Yes, and now I was adding charcuterie boards, shrimp cocktail, nuts, dips, and every non-alcoholic beverage option available. If you wanted alcohol, it was BYOB. I needed extra hands. I'm very fortunate. My nephews and some much younger friends helped set up the day before and the morning of the event. Some even helped during the party. They got to hear the speeches and stories about the wild and crazy 60s. They actually had fun and couldn't believe that all these oldsters could still party, even without alcohol or hallucinogenic. After the party, I did some research. The year 1945 was the last year of the silent generation. It was the year that World War II ended and 2.8 million people were born in the U.S. that year. And now, 80 years later, statistics indicate that there's only 1% of us still around. But in my class of 200 students, 165 are still with us. We're scattered around the country and the world, but we are still sharing memories and making new ones every day. Farewell to 2025, and here's to those baby boomers celebrating the big 80 in 2026. Hope they can manage to keep up with us.
Some business and financial news. Competing ski resorts join forces to boost attendance. Two competing Western New York ski resorts are finding a way to collaborate. Kissing Bridge All Seasons Resort and Holly Mount Ski Area have reached a reciprocal partnership that they say helps expand access and value for Western New Yorkers, skiers, and snowboarders. Each resort will will provide a 25% discount to snow sports enthusiasts at certain days and time. The collaboration pairs Holly Mount's public weekday offering in Glenwood with Kissing Bridge's expanded night skiing in Ellicottville. It's part of the effort to get more skiers and riders on their hills for more hours each day throughout the season. Although many local resorts try to do more to appeal to clientele throughout the year, these businesses remain dependent on the winter season, so they need to do everything possible to take advantage of a season that usually only goes for several months between December through March. Rhett McNulty, who's in his second season as serving as chairman of Kissing Bridge, called it a mutually beneficial offering. Teaming up with Holly Mount allows us to complement their outstanding weekday experience with our growing nighttime offering, he said in a statement. At the end of the day, we want people skiing more days, supporting local hills, and feeling connected to the broader Western New York ski community. This season has started off on a right foot for ski resorts, with plenty of early snow and cold providing a solid base on enough hills to operate on time and some even earlier than anticipated. That's been a boon for ski areas, as they're now in one of the most crucial times of the season around the holidays. It's the second straight good start to a season for snow sports. Last season ended with 184 inches in Ellicottville, several inches over the area's annual average snowfall. It also stayed cold through March, which allows snowmaking teams to make a base that lasts throughout the entirety of winter. But resorts could always use more help. Under this partnership, Kissing Bridge's night season pass holders will receive a 25% discount off Holly Mount weekday lift tickets, except on holidays, and Holly Mount's weekday pass holders and members will receive a similar discount off Kissing Bridge's night passes. Holly Mount is a member-only resort on weekends, while it opens to the public Monday through Friday. By partnering with Kissing Bridge, we're giving our pass holders an easy way to keep skiing when the sun goes down, while also welcoming more skiers to experience Holly Mount during the week, said Travis Winger, snow sports director and integrator at Holly Mount. It's a win for our guests, a win for Kissing Bridge, and a win for skiing and riding in Western New York.
Thank you. The Buffett era ending at Berkshire Hathaway. This is from Josh Funk of the Associated Press. Greg Abel faces the challenge of taking over Berkshire Hathaway from the legendary Warren Buffett on Thursday. Many regard Buffett as the world's greatest investor after he grew Berkshire from a struggling New England textile mill that he started buying up for $7.60 a share in 1962 to the massive conglomerate it is today, with shares that go for more than $750,000 a pop. Buffett's personal fortune of Berkshire stock is worth more than $150 billion, even after giving away more than $60 billion over the past 20 years. Berkshire, for decades, has routinely outpaced the Standard & Poor's 500 as Buffett brought up insurance companies like Geico and National Indemnity, newspapers like the Buffalo News, which he sold in 2020, retail brands like Dairy Queen, major utilities, and even one of the nation's biggest railroads, BNSF. Along the way, Buffett bought and sold hundreds of billions of dollars of stocks and profited handsomely from his famously long-term bets on companies like American Express, Coca-Cola, and Apple. Berkshire has struggled to keep that pace in recent years because it's grown so huge, and also struggled to find new and significant acquisitions. Even this fall's $9.7 billion acquisition of OxyChem probably isn't big enough to make a difference in Berkshire's profits. Investors will be watching closely to see what changes Abel might make in Berkshire's trajectory, but don't expect any seismic shifts. Though Buffett officially retires today, he isn't going anywhere. He remains chairman and plans to continue coming into the office each day to help spot new investments and offer Abel any advice he asks for. Abel has already been managing all of Berkshire's non-insurance businesses since 2018. CFRA research analyst Kathy Seifer said it's natural for Abel to make some changes the way Berkshire is run. Taking a more traditional approach to leadership with nearly 400,000 employees spread across dozens of subsidiaries makes a lot of sense, she said, but Berkshire operates under an extremely decentralized structure that trusts its executives with significant decisions. Everyone associated with the company has said there are no plans to change that. The world learned that Abel was to become this designated successor successor at Berkshire in 2021 when Buffett's long-term business partner, the late Charlie Munger, assured shareholders at an annual meeting that Abel would maintain the company's culture. Part of Buffett's sales pitch to company founders and CEOs thinking of selling their companies has always been that Berkshire would largely allow them to continue running their companies the same way as long as they delivered results. I think the investment community would likely applaud Greg's management style to the degree that it sort of buttons things up, Seifert said, and it helps performance that it can't really be faulted. Abel's already showed himself to be more hands-on manager than Buffett, but he still follows the Berkshire model of an autonomy for acquired companies. Abel asks tough questions of company leaders and he holds them accountable for their performance. He did announce some leadership changes earlier this month after an investment manager and Geico CEO Todd Combs departed and Chief Financial Officer Mark Hamburg announced his retirement. He also said he's appointing NetJets CEO Adam Johnson as manager of all Berkshire's consumer, service, and retail businesses. That essentially creates a third division of the company and takes some work off Abel's plate. He will continue to manage the manufacturing, utility, and railroad businesses. Abel will eventually face more pressure and start paying a dividend. From the beginning, Berkshire has held the position that it's better to reinvest profits than making quarterly annual payouts to shareholders. But if Abel can't find a productive use of the $382 billion cash that Berkshire is sitting on, there may be a push from investors to start paying dividends or to adopt a traditional stock buyback program that would boost the value of shares they hold. Currently, Berkshire is the only repurchases shares when Buffett thinks they are a bargain, and he hasn't done that since early 2024.
Thank you. Startup tries to snap rare earth monopoly. Every few hours, 2 furnaces in a New Hampshire office park quietly transform batches of taupe-colored powder into rough ingots. These molten chunks of metal, about the size of a few bricks, ultimately will be used to make electric vehicle motors or maybe a fighter jet. This is what rare earth processing looks like in the United States, where university researchers and startups are trying to wrest a slice of this small but vital industry from China. Rare earths are a family of elements toward the bottom of the periodic table with tongue twister names like neodymium and dysprosium. They are used in powerful magnets, lasers, MRI machines, and other instruments, and while they are not actually rare, they are difficult to process into usable forms. China refines more than 90% of the world's rare earths, a level of control that is of growing concern to Western governments and businesses. There's too little money to be made in rare earths for the elements to be of much interest to mining giants, so the challenge of reestablishing a domestic industry has fallen to small companies like Phoenix Tailings, a Boston area startup that runs the metal making plant in Exeter. A handful of other companies in the United States are processing rare earths in small quantities, including MP Materials, which owns a mine in Mountain Pass, California, and recently began producing rare earth metal in Fort Worth, Texas. Similar efforts are underway in Europe and Asia. Phoenix Tailings' New Hampshire operation is housed in a converted medical device plant. The company buys metric ton bags of powder, a mixture of neodymium and ferrocyanamine, bound with oxygen, from mining and refining companies in the United States, South America, and Australia. It funnels that flour-like material into a drying oven and eventually into furnaces that will heat it to the temperature of volcanic lava. The circuit takes up less than 15,000 square feet and is designed to generate no emissions other than those associated with the electricity Phoenix Tailings uses. The closed-loop design distinguishes this process from the more energy-intensive techniques used in China, where workers scoop up molten metal with ladles. That approach releases perfluorocarbons, potential greenhouse gases that do not break down easily. As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Abarola the First, Thomas F. Beller, Lorraine D. née Bukowski. Bossert, Doris J. Campbell, Janie Elizabeth née Carlson. Carlo Timothy J., Cody Donald Henry, Cole Melanie E., Finicki Kathleen, Flint Mark, Hensel Carol Schreiner, Harrington Timothy F. Jr., M.D., Hennigan Joseph Donald, Irwin Patrick K., James Linden, Jasper Wendy Lynn ne Nicosia, Kazuski James, Kramer ne Menon Renate, Kraus Erhard V. Art, Kraszemski Gerald J., Livingston Daniel J., Lugo Jose, Picante Gloria Nelanga, Rawls Timothy, Briggy William Bill, Ritzman John, Senek Zenowif, Selsky Stanley J., Stempniak Lorraine C., ne Gobeluski, Walters Anna M., ne Chivaro, Whittaker Anthony, Wiklowitz Richard, Williams Donald, Williams Jr., Donald John, Zerlewski Daniel H. Dan, and one international obituary, Perry Bamonte, a guitarist and keyboard player in The Cure, the seminal post-punk band that brought a dark gothic sensibility to sparkly upbeat hits like Friday I'm in Love, died December 24th at his home in the west of England. He was 65. If you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555.
Thank you. And now we will move on to some entertainment with the Royal Stars from Georgia Nichols. Happy birthday for Wednesday, December 31st of 2025. You're pragmatic and idealistic. You seek better ways of doing things. This is a year of learning and teaching. Take time to renew your spiritual or religious beliefs. And the stars show what kind of a day you'll have. 5 being dynamic, 4 positive, 3 average, 2 so-so, 1 difficult. Looks like most of us are going to have a good day. Aries is 4 stars. Today you have strong feelings and views about certain issues, which is why discussions with siblings, relatives, and neighbors will be lively. Tonight, discussions. Taurus, 3 stars. You're the financial wizard of the zodiac, and today you have strong feelings about financial matters. This might go on be about earnings or a big expenditure. Tonight, check your money. Gemini, 4 stars. Today, the moon is in your sign, dancing with Pluto, which makes your feelings intense and your discussions charged with emotion. Tonight, you win. Cancer, 3 stars. Be cooperative with partners and close friends because 3 planets are opposing your sign. Tonight, seek privacy. Leo, 4 stars. Remember to listen when talking to friends and members of groups today. Listen with genuine interest and be polite because it's all too easy for conversations to become intense. Tonight, be friendly. Virgo, 3 stars. You are high vis today, which means people notice you more than usual. Be aware of the fact that discussions will also be more public than usual. Tonight, you're noticed. Libra, 4 stars. You're an excellent debater, and today you might engage in intense discussions about politics or religion. Tonight, explore. Scorpio, 3 stars. Today the moon is dancing with your ruler Pluto, which will create intense feelings in you and others, especially if you're dealing with inheritances. Tonight, check your finances. Sagittarius, 3 stars. The best advice for you today is to cooperate with spouses, partners, and close friends because the moon is opposite your sign tonight. Listen carefully. Capricorn, 3 stars. It's the last day of the year and you hold all the cards with the Sun, Venus, and fiery Mars all in your sign. Tonight, get organized. Aquarius is 4 stars. Today has mixed messages for you. One message that you want to party and socialize. However, the other message is you might be best served by being low-key and staying quiet, alone or behind the scenes. Tonight, relax. And Pisces, 3 stars. Relations with friends and groups are positive today. However, discussions with family members, especially parents, might be too emotional. Tonight, cocoon at home.
Thank you. And hints from Heloise. Keep carbon monoxide in mind when traveling. Dear Heloise, This letter about preventing carbon monoxide poisoning by getting a monitor for your home is a must, but it didn't go far enough. You should get a monitor that you can also travel with. How many articles have we read about carbon monoxide poisoning in vacation rental homes, condos, and even hotels? Vacations are a relaxing getaway, but you shouldn't let your guard down while you are staying in places that probably do not have an installed monitor. Taking that home monitor with you or a separate unit could save your life. From Caggie and Prescott. Caggie, it's always good to have a carbon monoxide detector in the home, office, or in a hotel room. However, if you have a fire going in your fireplace, it may cause the detector to sound an alarm. In that case, just crack the window a little or put out the fire. Hiccups. Dear Heloise, I like your tips in the Richmond, Virginia Times-Dispatch. I have to offer my tip to stop hiccups instantly. To stop hiccups, hold about 20 milliliters of water in your mouth and at the same time plug both your ears with your fingers. After a few seconds, spit the water out of your mouth. Hiccups should stop instantly. From J.M. in Richmond, Virginia. Jay, that's a new one I hadn't heard about before. People generally advise swallowing water. Shellac. Dear Heloise, recently a neighbor gave me a wooden salad bowl set. The individual bowls are fine, but the large bowl shows areas where it most likely was shellacked. How can I safely remove that coating without damaging the wood? From Donna in Tucson. Donna, I recommend going to a hardware store and having one of the salespeople help you find the right remover. You'll need one that won't leave a residue. Be sure to tell them that this is a wooden bowl and that you'll be using it with food. They might recommend that you re-shellac the bowl to keep oils from soaking into the wood. And let's see here. And removing moldy cheese. Dear Heloise, we've all had cheese mold after using some and saving the rest in the refrigerator. Cheese mold isn't harmful, but it's not something we want to eat. Rather than throwing the whole chunk of cheese away, many of us will cut off the moldy part and use the rest. The easiest way to remove the affected area is to use your potato peeler. It does a super job and does so while minimizing the amount of good cheese that is removed. And that's from Don B. And the last one, foaming soap. Dear Heloise, I use refillable foaming soap bottles at all my sinks. One day I accidentally bought a liquid soap refill instead of foaming. I found out that if I put about an inch of liquid soap in the empty bottle, then water up to the fill line, it makes perfect foaming soap. I've had the refill for a year now and it's not even close to halfway gone. This bottle will last me years. Best money-saving mistake I ever made. From Sandra in Resenda, California. You're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Wednesday, December 31st, 2025, yes, last day of the year, on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after the short break. Your readers today are
J.J. Patek
and Linda Ranella. Nick, where are we off?
Okay, I thought I had another 30 seconds.
This is Marian Heatherly, Community Engagement Coordinator for your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and I'd like to talk to you as another year comes to a close. We've been reflecting on what we've accomplished in 2025 and what needs to be done in the new year, and you, our listeners, are at the heart of everything. The most important message we want to share this holiday season is thank you to all of our listeners who have supported radio reading in 2025 by listening, by making a donation, by attending an event, by spreading the word about us, by connecting a new listener with us. You're incredibly important to us as we review our accomplishments of the past year and plan for the future, so we can keep our programming free for everyone who needs it and reach more people who would benefit. On behalf of the entire team at Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, may the joys of the holiday season be with you all.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Linda Ranella.
and JJ Patek.
On to some local and regional news. Lee Enterprises gets $50 million, a new leader in investor deal. Lee Enterprises, the owner of the Buffalo News, has reached a deal with one of its biggest shareholders to raise $50 million through a stock sale that will give it much needed cash and also shake up its top management. The deal will make investor David Hoffman's Lee's chairman and allow him to appoint one member to Lee's expanded 10-member board of directors and another board member who is mutually agreeable to the company. It also will generate significant cost savings for Lee because its main lender, Berkshire Hathaway Corporation, also agreed to reduce the interest rate on its $456 million in debt to 5% from 9% over a 5-year period, which Lee has said will save it $18 million a year on interest expenses. Lee paid $40.5 million in interest over the previous 12 months that ended in September. Kevin Mowbray, Lee's president and chief executive officer, also announced he will retire, with Nathan Beck, Lee's chief operating officer, serving as interim CEO while the company launches a search for a permanent CEO. Hoffman, who will become Lee's largest shareholder under the deal, has been critical of Lee's management. Lee's board unanimously approved the investment deal, which comes less than 2 weeks after the company canceled a shareholder vote on its own plan to raise $50 million by selling additional stock. Hoffman was not part of that plan. The board concluded that strengthening the balance sheet, implementing the leadership change, and advancing a clear strategic direction are necessary to improve execution and position the company for long-term value creation, Lee said in a statement Tuesday. This transaction reflects the board's determination to act decisively, Mary Junk, Lee's chair, who will remain on the board after the deal closes, said in a statement. By strengthening the balance sheet and improving the company's capital structure, we are putting the company in a better position to execute and create long-term value. A Lee spokesperson declined additional comment. As part of the deal, Hoffman has agreed to commit about $35 million toward the funding agreement, which will allow him and other investors to purchase Lee shares at $3.25 per share. Other existing Lee investors are expected to purchase 15 million of the new Lee shares, although Hoffman also has agreed to buy any remaining shares that are not sold to those other investors. This transaction strengthens the company's balance sheet and reflects the board's determination to take decisive action, Hoffman said in a statement. With improved financial stability and a clear governance framework in place, the focus can now be on disciplined executive and long-term value creation. That price is a 13% discount to Lee's closing price of $3.73 on Monday. Lee's shares, which have tumbled by 70% this year, rose by 21%, or 77 cents per share, to $4.50 on Tuesday. Lee shareholders are expected to vote on a financing deal during a special shareholders meeting during the first quarter of next year. Hoffman, the chairman of Hoffman Family of Companies, is a billionaire who has been steadily adding to its stake over the past 2 years in Lee, which also owns publication in 72 U.S. markets, including the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the Omaha World Herald. In an interview with the Buffalo News in March, Hoffman said combining Lee's 78 newspapers with the 21 publications his company owns would create the second largest newspaper company in the United States behind Gannett. While Lee's media business has generated more than $19 million in operating profits over the previous 12 months, the interest payments on its debt and other expenses led to a net loss that topped $37 million during its fiscal year that ended in September. That followed a loss of nearly $26 million during that fiscal year before that. Hoffman, whose net worth is estimated at $2 billion by Ford magazine, operates dozens of businesses from real estate developments and wineries to luxury transportation and manufacturers. In all, the Huffman family of companies employs more than 17,000 people. More recently, Huffman reached a deal earlier this month to acquire a controlling interest in the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team from Fenway Sports Group in a deal that ESPN said could be valued at between $1.7 billion and $1.8 billion.
Thank you. Golisano gives $100 million to 2 more hospitals. This is from John Harris. Billionaire philanthropist Tom Golisano this week announced he's giving $100 million to 2 more children's hospitals as a Rochester businessman and his foundation aggressively expand the newly formed Golisano Children's Alliance. The 2 hospitals, Arkansas Children's in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Wellstar Children's Hospital of Georgia, are each receiving the $50 million. Both hospitals will join the Golisano Children's Alliance, bringing the total number of Alliance members to 12 children's hospitals. The John R. Oshai Children's Hospital, which will be renamed after Golisano Children's Hospital of Buffalo on Thursday, is a member of its alliance. Children's hospitals are essential to the health and future of our communities, and each one serves families with unique needs and challenges, Golisano said in a statement Monday. Arkansas Children's and Children's Hospital of Georgia have demonstrated a deep commitment to advancing pediatric care, expanding access, and investing in innovation. I'm proud to support their work and to welcome them into the Golisano Children's Alliance as we continue building a collaborative network focused on improving outcomes for children nationwide. In the announcement, Golisano made it clear just how large he wants the Golisano Children's Alliance to become. The long-term goal, the announcement said, is to expand the Golisano Children's Alliance to 40 hospitals over the next several years. Most hospital partnerships are expected in 2026. Golisano is moving fast. When he announced his $50 million gift to Oshai Children's Hospital in August, the Buffalo Hospital is set to become the only the 4th children's hospital to bear the Golisano name, joining peers in Rochester, Syracuse, and Fort Myers, Florida. About 2 months later, on October 28th, Golisano committed $253 million to 6 more hospitals across the country and announced those hospitals would join the 4 existing Golisano hospitals to form the Golisano Children's Alliance. Those 6 hospitals are Connecticut Children's Medical Center in Hartford, Connecticut, Penn State Health Children's Hospital in Hershey, Pennsylvania, University of Kentucky Children's Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, University of Maryland Children's Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, WVU Medicine Children's Hospital in Morgantown, West Virginia, and University of Vermont Children's Hospital in Burlington, Vermont. The hospitals in the Alliance will operate independently. Oshai Children's Hospital is still owned by Kaleida Health, as one example, but will incorporate Golisano into their names. The Alliance hospitals are expected to share research, training, and best practices, as well as advocate together on issues nationally. Dr. Stephen Turgovich, president of the soon-to-be-called Golisano Children's Hospital of Buffalo, sees a potential to share talent through the Alliance as the number of pediatric subspecialists continues to shrink nationally. Telemedicine could allow the Alliance's participating hospitals to share expertise to benefit patients. They're just going to be easier to access to colleagues and easier access to formal collaborative efforts that won't come with a cost, Turkovich said in a recent interview. As for the 2 newest Alliance hospitals, Arkansas Children's Campus in Little Rock will become Arkansas Children's Golisano Campus, while Wellstar Children's Hospital of Georgia will become Wellstar Golisano Children's Hospital of Georgia. His donations are the largest single philanthropic gifts in the histories of Arkansas Children's and Wellstar Children's Hospital, and will support new pediatric cardiac intensive care unit at Wellstar Children's Hospital, while the donation will help support a $371 million system-wide expansion and growth plan at Arkansas Children's. The need for services continues to change and grow, and we are committed to providing the best care, research, and outcomes for the patients we serve, said Marcy Doderberg, president and CEO of Arkansas Children's. Mr. Golisano's extraordinary generosity and investment in Arkansas Children's, ensuring access to the best answers in medicine can offer. This gift elevates our work as Pediatric Health Center of Excellence, expanding care close to home for the children of America's heartland.
3 pedestrians struck and killed, 2 drivers charged. 2 Buffalo residents face allegations of impaired driving in separate Saturday incidents that took the lives of 2 pedestrians, an 80-year-old man and a 45-year-old woman. A pedestrian was also struck and killed Sunday night in Hamburg, according to town police. The pedestrians struck in Buffalo were both in crosswalks when they were hit, according to Erie County District Attorney's Office. James E. Clark, the 31, has been charged with second-degree vehicular manslaughter and driving while intoxicated in the death of a woman at the intersection of Goodrich and Ellicott Streets. The victim, who was struck at about 8:35 p.m. was identified in a Buffalo police report as Wendy Jasper. Jasper was taken by ambulance to Buffalo General Hospital, where she was pronounced dead, prosecutors said. Clark, who was behind the wheel of a 2009 Chevy Impala, according to a police report, was arraigned in Buffalo City Court on Sunday and ordered held on bail set at $200,000 bond or cash, the district attorney's office said. The other incident happened about 5:55 p.m. at McKinley Parkway and Lorraine Avenue in South Buffalo. The victim, who was walking a dog, was taken from the scene by ambulance, according to a Buffalo police report. On the way to Erie County Medical Center, the ambulance diverted to Buffalo General Hospital after the victim experienced medical complications due to the severity of his injuries. He died at Buffalo General. Authorities withheld the victim's name. Rayana A. Cornelius, 32, has been charged with second-degree vehicular manslaughter and 2 counts of aggravated DWI, as well as DWI and driving while impaired by drugs or alcohol, according to the DA's office. Cornelius, who had 2 children with her inside her 2012 Toyota Camry, prosecutors said, was also arraigned Sunday in Buffalo City Court and ordered held on bail set at $150,000 cash or bond. Cornelius's car had damage from the front driver's side bumper and onto the passenger's side windshield, according to the Buffalo police report. The victim was found next to the vehicle about 80 feet from the crosswalk, according to the report. Both cases were investigated by the Buffalo Police Department's Accident Investigation Unit. In the Hamburg case, a man was struck at about 8 p.m. Sunday near the intersection of Southwestern Boulevard and South Park Avenue, police said in a news release. When officers arrived, bystanders were performing CPR on a man in the roadway. Emergency responders provided aid at the scene, and the man was transported to Mercy Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. He was identified as Daniel Livingston, 60, of Hamburg. The driver who struck Livingston remained on the scene and was cooperative with investigators. Hamburg police asked anyone who may have witnessed the incident to contact accident investigators. Eric Wilson at 716-648-5111, extension 2571, or Paul DeHand at extension 2774. And folks, like normal, if you want something repeated, call us here at the station, 716-821-5555.
Thank you. DiTullio says being judge was a privilege. This is from Patrick LeCamp. For 30 years as a judge, Sheila DiTullio saw the underbelly of life. Things that were really brutal, graphic, unpleasant, the retiring Erie County judge said. Through it all, she remained calm, whether sentencing stolen cold killers to lifetime prison sentences, asking embezzlers why they stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, or finding a way to hold drug addicts accountable for their crimes while still giving them a path to recovery. Her 3-decade judicial career ends Wednesday as she has reached the judicial mandatory retirement age of 70. I think the most important thing for a judge is not to be a screamer, not to elevate emotions, DiTullio said, looking back at her tenure in an interview with the Buffalo News. There's so much emotion in the courtroom, she said. You got an accused with his or her liberty at stake. Then you have the victims, and they've been traumatized. So she played the referee who stayed calm. She let lawyers do their jobs. She respected jurors' time. She kept trials on track. The most important thing for me was to keep it calm, she said, because the lawyers are heated. They have a lot of pressure, and the jurors are in for this foreign environment. And they're listening to all these things, some of them very graphic and very unpleasant. So if I can stay calm, usually the courtroom does. My goal was never to let the courtroom turn into a circus, and 99% of the time, it didn't. Attorney Cheryl Myers Booth sees DiTullio as a trailblazer, recalling her as one of only 2 women on the bench handling felony crime cases in the early years of Myers Booth's legal career. DiTullio served as an example for women who wanted to practice criminal law, she said. She always volunteered her time as a mentor, and she made permanent imprint on an entire generation of lawyers, Myers Booth said. DiTullio may be best known for 2 high-profile cases, the acquittal on the manslaughter and leaving the scene charges against Dr. James Z. Corsani and the murder conviction of Ricardo McRae, the City Grill shooter. McRae fired 10 gunshots over 17 seconds outside the downtown restaurant at about 2:30 a.m. on August 14, 2010, killing 4 and wounding 4 others, making it At the time, the worst incident of bloodshed in Buffalo. After a jury convicted McRae, DiTullio sentenced him to life in prison without parole. You're a thug, and you're a murderer, and you're a person with no remorse and no conscience, DiTullio said as she imposed the stiffest punishment allowed by law. Quite simply, Ricardo McRae, you take a life and you get life. Corassani also got the stiffest punishment DiTullio could impose, 1 year. The Corassani case probably raised the greatest public outcry over any criminal case in Buffalo. A jury acquitted him of manslaughter, leaving the scene in evidence tampering charges, rejecting the prosecution contention that while on his way home from a country club outing, Corassani was texting, speeding, and driving on the shoulder of Helheim Road in Amherst when his car fatally struck an 18-year-old longboard skater on July 8th of 2011. Jurors convicted him of driving while intoxicated, but concluded that his drunkenness did not directly cause the death of Alexandria Alex Rice. Hundreds of people sent letters to DiTullio, both for and against Corassani. The Corassani case took out a life of its own because he was a professional, DiTullio said Tuesday. I never received so many letters on a case. From the letters, DiTullio gauged the overriding public sentiment. Don't give him special treatment because he's a doctor. As the trial progressed and how lawyers handled the case on prosecution end and the defensive end, I really wasn't surprised with the verdict, she said. He had quite the defense team, which included Myers Booth. As a judge, you get to watch everything, and at the end, when it came in, as emotional as the trial was and as intense as it was, and I watched where it was going every day, I really wasn't surprised. Now, was justice done on that case, she asked? That's for other people to answer. Our goal is always that justice be done. DiTullio, a prosecuted for 12 years before becoming a judge, often found her most rewarding days in a judge's robe outside the glare of the spotlight. What I'll miss the most is helping a lot of the accused that were there before me, she said. She saw the changing courts over the years. It's no longer just finding defendants guilty or innocent and then imposing a sentence if needed. You see people before you every day, the accused that are really hurting, she said. Now, social workers, rehabilitation specialists, treatment providers, and others play a role. So when I have a person before me charged with DWI or a drug case or whatever, we can put them in a program that works, she said. We used to finish our cases and they were done, she said. Not anymore. Judges keep tabs on defendants who are in DWI and drug treatment courts. Some make it and some don't, she said. But when they make it, it's a really good feeling and it makes your day. I will really miss that part of the job. Defense attorney Paul Dell said DiTullio definitely cared about defendants, especially if they were young and suffered from an addiction that led to their crimes. She would absolutely listen and help with a rehab program, Dell said. At the same time, she was tough on the serious cases like homicide. It's time to exit gracefully, DiTullio said. It was a privilege to be a judge for 30 years. It's time to move on to the next stage of my life.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 10:18. On to sports. Hot seat warming up. This is the Bills Mailbag by Jay Sikorsky. Welcome back to the Midweek Bills Mailbag. Let's get right to your questions. Josh asks, on 2nd and 10 before the 2-minute warning versus the Eagles, the Bills ran a run play to Ty Johnson that went for 1 yard. Then coming out of the 2-minute warning on 3rd and 9, they ran a screen pass to Johnson that the Eagles were ready for. Weren't those both head-scratching calls? Aren't these examples of why Joe Brady should not be the offensive coordinator? Jay, yes, I was not a fan of either of those play calls. The bubble screen in particular on 3rd and 9 was maddening. The Bills like that play, though, so they keep going back to it. Part of that could be because there is a lack of trust in the downfield receiving options. It was a brutal play call that only rescued by the lateral on 4th down, which has now been executed to perfection twice to keep games alive this season. I've long believed that isolating one or even a few play calls in a single game is a bit unfair to the offensive coordinator. So I'm not willing to say Brady shouldn't be the offensive coordinator because of them. We have to judge him on the entire body of work for the 2025 season, which isn't over yet. Breaking news there, I know. To this point in the season, Josh Allen has regressed from the past few years. Perhaps that was to be expected coming off an MVP season, but it's troubling nonetheless. Not all of that falls on Brady, but as the offensive coordinator, he's got to take ownership of it. The quickest way for Brady's job is to be in jeopardy is to show an inability to protect Allen, who is the most important person in the entire franchise. Against a pair of elite defenses this season, Houston and Philadelphia, that has been the case. The Bills' hope of going anywhere in the playoffs rests largely with Allen being healthy and at his best. He's not either of those right now. If that factors into an early playoff exit, I would fully expect Sean McDermott to have a hard decision to make about whether Brady is the right person to lead this offense. Allen's opinion will carry significant weight too. If the Bills were to replace Brady, McDermott would have a stack of resumes a foot high of candidates desiring to call plays for Allen. We have to see how the rest of the season plays out, though, before we make that conversation. If the Bills make a deep playoff run or even go all the way to the Super Bowl, Brady's exit might come in a form of a head coaching job, not a firing. Pete in Colorado asks, riddle me this, Jay. You have the number 1 rated rushing offense in the league. You're having a slightly down game in which a defense is holding you to an average of about 4 yards per rush. You have a quarterback who is 6'5", 250 pounds, and a total beast, and you need 2 yards to win the game. Why wouldn't you run the ball? The Bills are 1 of 7 on 2-point conversion attempts this season. What has been the play distribution run pass on those attempts? Would you agree that this aspect of their play calling is in dire need of repair? Thanks for including me in my favorite news future. Jay. The Bills' success rate on 2-point conversion attempts this season is the worst in the NFL. As Pete points out, they are 1 of 7. The Rams and Titans have not attempted a 2-point conversion this season, so excluding them leaves the Bills last in success rate. Buffalo's 7 2-point attempts is tied for second in most in the league, behind only the Buccaneers, who have gone for 2 points 8 times. The Bills have thrown the ball on all 7 of their attempts, with the only successful conversion coming against the Bengals in Week 14 on a completion to Dawson Knox. Clearly, the Bills need to revamp their 2-point strategy because what they've tried this season has not worked. And Ed asks, where would the Bills be this season without Shaq Thompson? Jay, they'd be worse off defensively. That's stating the obvious, but I'm not sure how to answer this question in greater detail. Thompson just hasn't been a good fit on the field. He's a leader in the locker room. He's got the alpha dog mentality McDermott wants in his defensive players. We've heard in the past the Bills coach challenging his players to be more physical. He doesn't have to worry about that with Thompson, who hits to hurt, but not in a dirty way. Of the 94 linebackers who have played at least 210 defensive snaps in the NFL this season, Thompson ranks number 39 in analytics website Pro Football Focus grading. They may not sound overly impressive, but keep in mind that when he was initially signed, there was no guarantee Thompson was even going to make the Bills roster. To your point, Ed, he's been a hugely important addition to the defense and will be going forward as middle linebacker Terrell Bernard deals with yet another injury. Thank you for all the questions this week. As a reminder, they can be submitted via X to @JSkursky or by email to jskursky@buffalonews.com.
And on to hockey from Rachel Lindsay. The Sabres keep it cool as winning run continues. Yay. Lindy Ruff offered some advice and maybe even a warning to the Buffalo Sabres ahead of Monday's game against the St. Louis Blues. Don't get caught up in a track meet. Don't try to keep pace with a team that's trying to set the tone by outpacing you. For about 10 to 15 minutes of the first period, it looked as if the Blues were easily dictating the tempo and Buffalo's winning streak faced sudden peril. The Sabres' cooler heads prevailed, a sign of both character and patience. They knew there was still plenty of time for the game to unfold, and how it did. Zach Benson's goal less than 2 minutes into the third period helped lift the Sabres to a 4-2 win at the Enterprise Center and extended the club's winning streak to 9 games. The Sabres erased a 2-1 deficit in the second period and are closer to making matching a franchise record for consecutive wins. This is the 6th time in franchise history the Sabres have won 9 in a row, the last time coming November 8th to 27th in 2018 as part of a 10-game run. That 10-game winning streak tied the franchise record of January 4th through 23rd of 1984 and October 4th to 26th of 2006. But first, the Sabres had to take a few deep breaths after the first 20 minutes and gather their own bearings against the Blues, who took a 2-11 lead at 8 minutes 9 seconds on the first of Jimmy Snuggerud's goal. We're kind of weathered the storm, Sabres wing Alex Tuch said. I thought they came out with a little more emotion and attention to detail, and they were physical, but you know what? We started pushing back a little bit. The Sabres ramped up their own physicality. They edged out the Blues in the faceoff circle, winning 30 faceoffs and losing 24, their highest faceoff percentage this season, and only the 5th time this season they finished at 50% or higher on faceoffs. Still, the Blues pushed the Sabres to the final minutes down 3-2, but creating several shorthanded chances with Pavel Buchnevich penalized for a high sticking late in the second, and even got a lucky bounce when Jake Neighbors' shot went across the front of the goal with less than 90 seconds left as Alex Lyon was caught out of the crease after playing a puck. The second and third period, the way we played, we couldn't put them away, but we had the bulk of the chances and had almost every opportunity to open that game right up, said Ruff, whose team outshot the Blues 26-9 on the second and third periods. It allowed only 2 shots on goal in the third. We outplayed them in the second. We turned the games in our direction. We stacked a bunch of good shifts together in the O-zone, and I thought we followed up with an even better third period. Benson's third period goal came with an area where the Sabres continued to get comfortable right in front of the opposing goal. Benson battled Jack Quinn's initial shot at Joel Hofer into the net, and the goalie's glove side to give the Sabres 3-2 lead at 1 minute 46 seconds of the third. That's where a lot of our goals are scored, but I think everyone's kind of buying into that, Benson said. From our top player to our fourth line, we're all there. We're trying to pounce on loose pucks and make it hard on the opposing team. According to Natural Stat Trick, the Sabres finished with 17 high-danger scoring chances, shots taken directly in front or immediately around the net and underneath the face-off circles, including 13 5-on-5 chances. Of those 17 chances, 6 came in a second and 7 in the third. It's not just guys who are stationary at the net front, Tuch said. Guys are rolling in, rolling out, pushing out, and away from the net, getting high tips and screens from different areas. That's something that we came in after the first, we wanted to get more pucks on net and create chaos. I think we're able to do that a lot more. Tuch tied the game at 2-2 at 15 minutes 17 seconds on a second shot from the right circle off a pass from Matthias Samuelsson. Tuch's 12th goal of the season came less than 12 minutes after officials waved off the apparent tying goal at 3 minutes 55 seconds, ruling that Tuch redirected the puck into the net through a distinct kicking motion. The puck went in off Tuch's left skate when he pushed off into the paint near Hofer, and Tuch wasn't able to contest the call. I didn't try to kick it, Tuch said of the nullified play. I was trying to stop it, but my foot's in motion. I wasn't going to be a goal. I tried to make it look like I was skating, and I should have looked away from the puck, but I had a feeling that wasn't going to be counted.
Thank you. From Roundup, ex-Bills wide receiver Diggs faces criminal charges. New England Patriots star wide receiver Stefon Diggs is facing strangulation and other criminal charges in connection with an incident that happened earlier this month, police said. News of the charges emerged after a court hearing Tuesday in Dedham, Massachusetts. It is unclear what led to the charges, which include felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery. Diggs' lawyer, David Meyer, said in an email statement that Diggs categorically denies these allegations. Meyer said the allegations never occurred, describing them as unsubstantiated and uncorroborated. The timing and motivation for making the allegations is crystal clear. They are the direct result of an employee-employer financial dispute that was not resolved to the employee's satisfaction, Meyer wrote. In a statement, the Patriots said they were also standing by Diggs. We support Stefon, the team said. Diggs, 32, established himself as one of the NFL's best wide receivers during a run with Minnesota and Buffalo from 2018 to 23, when he had 6 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons and was selected to the Pro Bowl 4 times. After a lackluster stint in Houston last year, Diggs ended up in New England, signing a 3-year, $69 million deal in free agency that guaranteed him $26 million. Diggs has proven a reliable target for the second-year quarterback Drake May. Off the field, though, Diggs' tenure with the Patriots got off to a rocky start when a video surfaced on social media in May showing Diggs passing what appeared to be a bag of pink crystals to women on a boat. It wasn't clear what the substance was, and an NFL spokesperson said the league would not comment. Diggs' brother waved. The Cowboys waived cornerback Trayvon Diggs on Tuesday, ending a tumultuous final season, a game early in a Dallas career that never lived up to the promise of a 2021 All-Pro performance that included 11 interceptions. The move came ahead of Dallas' season finale Sunday at the New York Giants, with the Cowboys already guaranteed to miss the playoffs for a second year in a row. Diggs will be a free agent after clearing waivers. The season began with Diggs playing in the opener earlier than expected, coming off the recovery from his second major knee surgery in 2 years. Diggs missed 8 games after sustaining a concussion in an accident at home, something Diggs waited 2 months to try to explain to reporters. He said he was hit in the head by a mounting pole while trying to install a TV. The team said Diggs' delayed return was more about issues with the 27-year-old's knees. A person with knowledge of the decision told the Associated Press the decision on Diggs wasn't the result of a specific incident. And HOF finalists, quarterback Drew Brees and wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, headlined a group of 4 modern-era finalists in their first year of eligibility for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tight end Jason Witten and running back Frank Gore were the 2 other first-year eligible players who were also announced Tuesday among the 15 finalists. Willie Anderson, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, and Adam Vinatieri were guaranteed spots after advancing to the final 7 in voting for the 2025 class. There are 6 other returning finalists, with Eli Manning, Reggie Wayne, Jari Evans, Marshall Yanda, Terrell Suggs, and Darren Woodson all making it back to this stage. Defensive tackle Kevin Williams made it to the finalist stage for the first time in his 6th year of eligibility. The 50-person selection committee will vote on the 15 finalists next month, with the results announced February 5th at NFL Honors. Between 3 and 5 of the finalists will be inducted into the second year of this current format.
Florida to see snow for the Winter Classic. From the Newswire reports, it's going to see snow in Miami on Friday night. The NHL, as part of the celebrations planned for the Winter Classic game between the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers at Lone Depot Park, home of the baseball's Miami Marlins, is going to make snowfall at the ballpark. How it'll happen? Well, the NHL is keeping some of the exact details surrounding the plan quiet, but some fans are going to get at least a few flakes headed their way. You may get snowed on, Steve Mayer, the NHL's president for events and content, said Monday in what essentially was a message to more than 30,000 fans who are expected for the game. It'll be the first time the NHL plays an outdoor game in Florida. The rink is built, the ice is down, and still being worked on, of course, and the ballpark feels about 20 degrees chillier than usual, which is by obvious design. We've talked about the climate a lot, and this is a big challenge for us, Dean Matsuzaki, NHL Executive Vice President of Events, said last week. That said, having the roof, a sealed building, and the air conditioning, we're maintaining a much lower temperature than it is outside. We've mitigated a lot of the challenges, but we are watching it all very closely. The sets are still being built in some cases, but all will be ready when the teams come in for practice on Thursday. This is a show, Mayer said. There is a hockey game that goes on, and it's so important. I mean, this is a big game. The Panthers, the Rangers, and when we're in April, this could be a game that could determine whether a team makes the playoffs or not. But we also know that people are here for an experience, for something different, and we're going to give it to them, and we're going to have some fun along the way, which brings us back to snow. Officially, it hasn't snowed in Miami since 1977. There are some unconfirmed reports of a few flakes in the air in South Florida in 2010, and the temperature on Friday means that the snow won't be courtesy of Mother Nature. Forecasters expect the temperature in the area to be in the area of the retractable roof stadium to be in the upper 50s by game time for the Panthers Rangers, and the NHL has played an outdoor game in temperature as high as 65 degrees, that one taking place in the 2016 Stadium Series at Denver's Coors Field between the Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 10:35. On to Asking Eric. Friend's unexpected outburst ruins weekly game night. Dear Eric, a group of 7 elders, men and women, ages 60 to 90, have gotten together once a week to play poker at my unit in our condo building for almost 2 years. As my husband and I are the only couple, we provide the food and set up the game with chips. My husband is disabled and an introvert, so this is the only way that entertaining works for us. We eat, play, tell jokes, sometimes adult jokes. We have such a good time every week. Last Saturday, Martha decided to stop us from telling jokes. She yelled out, "Enough is enough." We were totally shocked. My husband gently asked her if it offended her. She said no, but enough is enough. The game broke up and everybody went home. We felt angry. It's our house and they're our guests. How dare she do that? I stopped inviting her. No apology, no remorse from her. She always tended to put me down. I can endure that, but putting my guests and my husband through this embarrassment is too much. Are we too tough? From Party Host. Dear host, as hosts, you're endeavoring to create a space that's welcoming and fosters connections. These things depend on good communication. Of course, if a guest is made uncomfortable by something at a gathering, from conversational content to food to other guests, a good host is going to hear them when they express it and try to make a change. But from your telling, Martha didn't give you much of anything to work on. It's hard to tell if there was some offense that she didn't want to explain, or if she was just feeling cantankerous, or something else entirely. But your response isn't too tough. If you have a desire to close the loop, you can reach out to Martha one-on-one. Try saying something like, "I wanted to talk to you about what happened at the poker game the other day. Could you tell me more about what was frustrating you?" You may not feel compelled to change the way the group plays just to suit her, but what she says can give you more insight, and with that insight you can decide on the best path forward for your friendship. It may be she's had enough of the poker group and it's just not a good match anymore. Dear Eric, my husband and I have been together for 11 years. He has one daughter, 43, with 2 young children I adore and have been close to until last summer when the volcano erupted. Since the beginning of our relationship, I have made every effort to be loving and generous to his daughter. She acts entitled and ungrateful to me. It's my fault for not standing up for myself early in my joining the family. For example, I wish to be thanked for gifts, babysitting, making holidays happen, having him over for dinner, and so on. She doesn't seem to care about me at all. Her father will not stand up to her and seems scared of her. Last summer, I blew up at her in a text and let her know how I felt about her behavior. I called her a manipulative user and let her know my truth, which is certainly not her truth. I apologized twice in 2 letters for being so harsh, but she will not forgive me, allow a repair, or let me see the grandkids. Her father will not help. This is hurting our marriage. I missed the little ones terribly and cried for months about this. Yes, I am in therapy and hoping my husband will go to couples counseling together. Funny, he is a psychotherapist. I would be most appreciative if you can offer us your help from missing family. Dear family, ask yourself what you have the power to change and what you need to accept even if you don't like it. For instance, you probably should accept that the relationship with your husband's daughter is not serving either one of you right now. And it's probably because her relationship with your husband is not healthy. It's likely that some of the frustration you're feeding stems from a desire to change something that's outside of your control. Are you right that your husband won't help you? If you want him to compel his daughter to accept your apology, that might not actually be useful. Unfortunately, even though your relationship with the grandkids was perhaps healthy, the other relationships supporting it are less so. So what can you change? Well, you're doing the most important first step by working on yourself in therapy. If your husband won't go to couples counseling, which he should, ask him why and ask him how he proposes to help you both communicate better.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to a final farewell. People who have left us in memoriam in 2025. January, we lost Wayne Osmond, 73, the singer and guitarist, a founding member of the Osmonds on January 1st. Peter Yarrow, 86, the singer-songwriter, was best known as a third of the folk music trio Peter, Paul, and Mary on January 7th. Sam Moore, he was a higher voice of the 1960s duo Sam and Dave, known for such definitive hits of the era as Soul Man and Hold On, I'm Coming on January 10th. David Lynch, 78. The filmmaker was celebrated for his uniquely dark and dreamlike vision in such movies as Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and the TV series Twin Peaks, January 16th. Bob Wecker, 90. He parlayed a forgettable playing career into a punchline for movie and TV appearances as Mr. Baseball and a Hall of Fame broadcasting tenor. He died January 16th. Dick Button, 95. He was one of the most accomplished men figure skaters in history and was one of his sport's great innovators and promoters on January 30th. And Marianne Faithfull, 78. The British pop star and muse helped write some of the Rolling Stones' greatest songs and endured as a torch singer on January 30th. And in February, Irv Gotti, 54, a music mogul who founded Murder Incorporated Records, and he was behind major hip-hop and R&B artists such as Ashanti and Ja Rule. On February 5th, Gene Hackman, 95, the Oscar-winning actor who studied portraits ranging from reluctant heroes to conniving villains and made him one of the industry's most respected and honored performers. February 18th, he was found dead with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Mabel Staton, 92, the black track and field standout, broke through barriers as the only woman to compete for the United States in a long jump at the 1952 Helsinki Olympics on February 20th. Clint Hill, 93, the Secret Service agent who leaped on the back of President John F. Kennedy's limousine after the president was shot and was forced to retire early because he remained haunted by memories of the assassination, February 21st. Roberta Flack, 88, the Grammy-winning singer and pianist, intimate vocal and musical style made her one of the top recording artists of the 1970s on February 24th. Michelle Trachtenberg, 39, a former child star in the hit 1996 movie Harriet the Spy. She went on to co-star with two buzzy TV shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl, February 26th. Boris Spassky, 88, a Soviet-era world chess champion. He lost to an American Bobby Fischer in a 1972 match that became a proxy for Cold War rivalries. March, Angie Stone, 63, the Grammy-nominated R&B singer and a member of the all-female hip-hop trio The Sequence, who is known for their hit song Wish I Didn't Miss You, died when her van crashed March 1st. Lincoln Diaz Balart, 70. He was a Cuban-American who opposed his uncle Fidel Castro and spent 18 years in the U.S. House of Representatives as a member of the politically powerful South Florida family, March 3rd. Robert G. Clark, 95, was elected in 1967 as Mississippi's first black lawyer of the 20th century and rose to the second highest leadership role in the State House of Representatives on March 4th. Dwayne Wiggins, 64, co-founded the Grammy-nominated group Tony and Tone behind classic songs Anniversary and Lay Your Head on My Pillow. That's March 7th. Nita Lowey, 87, the former congresswoman, was the longest-serving New York Democrat and the first woman to chair the powerful House Appropriation Committee on March 15th. George Foreman, 76, the fearsome heavyweight boxer, lost the rumble in the jungle of Muhammad Ali before his second inspiring and third acts as a 45-year-old world champion and successful business owner on March 21st. Kitty Dukakis, 88, the wife of former Massachusetts governor and Democratic presidential candidate Michael Dukakis, spoke only about her struggles with depression and addiction on March 21st. Mia Love, 49, a daughter of Haitian immigrants, the first black Republican woman elected to Congress, died of brain cancer on March 23rd. David Childs, 83, was a lead architect of One World Trade Center skyscraper that rose from the site where the Twin Towers collapsed in New York City during the 9/11 attacks on March 26th. Richard Chamberlain, 90, the handsome hero of the 1960s television series Dr. Kildare, came out as gay 4 decades later and was known as the king of the miniseries for his roles in The Thornbirds and Shogun on March 29th. And then April, Val Kilmer, 65, the brooding, versatile actor who played fan-favorite Iceman in Top Gun donned a voluminous cape as Batman in Batman Forever and portrayed Jim Morrison in The Doors, died of pneumonia of April 1st. Jay North, 73. He started as a tow-headed mischief maker on TV's Dennis the Menace for 4 seasons starting in 1959, April 6th. Wink Martindale, 91, the genial host of such hit game shows as The Gambit and Tic-Tac-Doe. Also did one of the first recorded TV interviews with young Elvis Presley, April 15th. Pope Francis, 88. History's first Latin American pontiff charmed the world with his humble style and concern for the poor, but alienated conservatives with critiques of capitalism and climate change. April 21st. And then Virginia Guffey, 41, she accused Britain's Prince Andrew and other influential men of sexually exploiting her as a teenager. Trafficked by financier Jeffrey Epstein, an advocate for sex trafficking survivors after emerging as a central figure in Epstein's downfall, died by suicide, according to her publicist, April 25th. And in May, we lost Ruth Buzzi, 88. She rose to fame as Gladys Ormsby on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and made 200-plus TV appearances during a 45-year career on May 1st. Then Jill Sobel, 66, the award-winning singer-songwriter whose witty writing attracted attention with the song I Kissed a Girl, died in a house fire May 1st. David H. Souter, 85, the retired Supreme Court Justice, was an ascetic bachelor and New Hampshire Republican who became a favorite of liberals during nearly 20 years on the bench on May 8th. Robert Benton, 92, the Oscar-winning filmmaker co-created Bonnie and Clyde and received mainstream validation as a writer-director of Kramer vs. Kramer and Places in a Heart, May 11th. Christopher Kit Bond, 86, the Republican, was Missouri's youngest governor and later served as a four-term U.S. Senator on May 13th. George Wendt, 76, an actor with a everyman charm, played the affable barfly Norm on the 1980s hit comedy series Cheers, performed on Broadway in Art, Hairspray, and Elf on May 20th. Susan Brown Miller, 90, a feminist whose landmark 1975 book Against Our Will, the intensely debated bestseller about sexual assault, May 24th. Charles Rangel, 94, the former New York congressman, was an outspoken, gravel-voiced Harlem Democrat. Spent 5 decades on Capitol Hill, was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus on May 26th. Loretta Swit, 87, won 2 Emmy Awards, played Major Margaret Houlihan, the demanding head nurse of a Korean War surgical unit on the pioneering TV series MASH, May 30th. Etienne Emile Ballot, 98, the French scientist, was known as the inventor of the abortion pill, May 30th. In June, Nina Kushik, 86, campaigned for women's inclusion in long-distance running and then won the Boston Marathon, the first year women were officially allowed to run, on June 8th. Sly Stone, 82, the revolutionary musician and dynamic showman led Sly and the Family Stone, transformed popular music with such hits as Everyday People, Stand and Family Affair, June 9th. Brian Wilson, 82, the Beach Boys' visionary and leader's genius for melody and arrangements inspired such as Good Vibrations in California, Girls and Other Summertime Anthems, June 11th. Amanda Lewis, 52, the former MTV and BET host who became a beloved TV personality in the 1990s, died of breast cancer June 11th. Anna Burrell, 55, the TV coached culinary fumblers on the show's Worst Cooks in America, June 17th, and Bobby Sherman, 81. His winsome, smiling, shaggy mop helped him to make him into a teen idol in the 60s and 70s on June 24th.
Continuing the year in review, in July, Jimmy Swaggart, 90, the televangelist, amassed a following in multi-million-dollar ministry, only to be undone by his penchant for sex workers, July 1st. Michael Madsen, 67, the actor was best known for his coolly menacing, steely-eyed, often sadistic characters in the films of Quentin Tarantino, including Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill Volume 2, July 3rd. Fayu Singh, 114, an Indian-born runner nicknamed the Turbaned Torpedo, believed to be the world's oldest marathoner, died after being hit by a car, July 14th. Connie Francis, 87. The wholesome pop star's 1950s and 60s hit included Who's Sorry Now and Pretty Little Baby, July 16th. Malcolm Jamal Warner, 54. His 40-year Hollywood career began as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, a phenomenon that helped define the 1980s. He drowned in the Caribbean Sea, July 20th. Ozzy Osbourne, 76, the gloomy, demon-invoking lead singer of the pioneering band Black Sabbath, became the godfather of heavy metal and then a doddering dad on reality TV, July 22nd. Chuck Mangione, 84, The two-time Grammy Award-winning musician achieved international success in 1977 with his single Feels So Good, and later became a voice actor on the animated TV comedy King of the Hill, July 22nd. Hulk Hogan, 71, the mustachioed, headscarf-wearing, bicep-busting icon of professional wrestling, turned the sport into a massive business and stretched his influence into pop culture and politics during the second act. July 24th. Ryne Sandberg, 65, the Hall of Fame second baseman for the Chicago Cubs, became one of baseball's best all-around players, July 28th. August. Lonnie Anderson, 79. She played a struggling radio station's receptionist on the hit TV comedy WKRP in Cincinnati, August 3rd. James Lovell, 97, the commander of Apollo 13, helped turn a failed moon mission into a triumph of on-the-fly, can-do engineering, August 7th. Mike Castle, 86, the Republican moderate and former Delaware governor, served 18 years in Congress, championed the popular 50-state quarters program, August 14th. Terence Stamp, 87, the British actor often played the role of a complex villain, including that of General Zod in the early Superman films, August 17th. Frank Caprio, 88, a retired municipal judge in Rhode Island, he found online fame as a caring jurist and host of Caught in Providence, August 20th. Ron Turcotte, 84, the Hall of Fame jockey rode Secretariat to the Triple Crown in 1973, August 22nd. September. Graham Greene, 73, a trailblazing Indigenous actor. His long career included an Oscar nod for his portrayal of Kicking Bird in Dances with Wolves, September 1st. Giorgio Armani, 91, the iconic Italian designer turned the concept of understated elegance into a fashion empire, September 4th. John McNeil, 83, he was one of 4 North Carolina college students whose refusal to leave a racially segregated Woolworths lunch counter 65 years ago helped spark nonviolent civil rights sittings across the South, September 4th. Polly Holiday, 88, the Tony Award-nominated screen and stage actor turned the catchphrase, "Kiss my grits," into a national retort as the gum-chewing, beehive-wearing server on the long-running CBS sitcom Alice, September 9th. Charlie Kirk, is 31, rising from a teenage conservative campus activist to a top podcaster and ally of President Donald Trump. He was fatally shot during an appearance at a college in Utah, September 10th. Robert Redford, 89, the Hollywood Golden Boy, became an Oscar-winning director, liberal activist, and godfather for independent cinema under the name of one of his best-loved characters, September 16th. Sonny Curtis, 88, a vintage rock and roller, he wrote "I Fought the Law" and posed the enduring question, "Who can turn the world on with her smile?" as the writer-crooner of the theme song to The Mary Tyler Moore Show, September 19th. Bobby Kahn, 85, one of the so-called Clinton 12 in 1956, he endured racist violence to become the first black student in Tennessee to graduate from an integrated state-run school, September 22nd. Sarah Jane Moore, 95, she was imprisoned for more than 30 years after she unsuccessfully attempted to assassinate President Gerald Ford in 1975, September 24th. October, Jane Goodall, 91. Folks, I'm running out of time here. Well, let me get another one here. Jane Goodall, 91, a conservationist, was renowned for her groundbreaking chimpanzee field research and globe-spanning environmental advocacy, October 1st. Diane Keaton, 79, the Oscar-winning star's quirky manner and emotional depth enthralled fans in movies including Annie Hall, The Godfather films, and Father of the Bride, October 11th. D'Angelo, 51, the Grammy-winning R&B singer, recognized by his raspy yet smooth voice for his garnering attention with the shirtless, untitled How Does It Feel music video, died of cancer, October 14th. Ace Frehley, 74, the original lead guitarist and founding member of the glamour rock Kiss, captivated audiences with his elaborate galactic makeup and smoking guitar, October 16th. Susan Stamberg, 87, the founding mother of National Public Radio, was the first female broadcaster to host a national news program. October 16th, June Lockhart, 100, she became a mother figure for a generation of television viewers, whether at home in Lassie or Lost in Space. October 23rd. November. Folks, I'm just going to read the rest. I've run out of time. November. Martha Lane Collins, 88. Dick Cheney, 84. Diane Ladd, 89. James D. Watson, 97. Sally Kirkland, 84. Jimmy Cliff, 81. Viola Ford Fletcher, 111.
Wow.
Yeah, Fozzie was older, 74. And then in December, Frank Gehry, 96. Rod Page, 92. Rob Reiner, 78. Gil Gerard, 82. Gary Biffle, 55. And Bridget Bardot, 91.
And we have run out of time. So you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Wednesday, December 31st of 2025. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and broadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, please call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Linda Ranella.
and J.J. Patek. Thanks for listening, and see you next year.
Yeah.
Quick programming note, the offices of the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service will be closed for the next 2 days in observance of New Year's Day. Today is New Year's Eve, for those unaware. Our programming is going to be a little different. You'll be hearing my dulcet tones again at about 10:56 tomorrow morning, New Year's Day, because of the we're going to be rebroadcasting this. At noon, we'll be playing some special programming, same with 4 o'clock. At 10 o'clock tonight and tomorrow, in place of a book and the Wall Street Journal, we'll be playing some old-time radio. And then Friday, we'll have some special programming as well. Stay with us for these readings, more throughout the day, throughout the weekend, and stay safe with this winter weather that is to be expected. Stay with us. Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the New York Times Business section. Following that at noon, we have Fiction Two Ways from our friends at the International Association of Audio Information Services. There's some intoxicating stories. And then at 1 o'clock, we have Frontier Magazine. Stay with us. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,